Hey guys, what's up? Back with another video. This time breaking news because it seems like Luckin Coffee may resume trading tomorrow. At least I just received a message by some of my followers. Thank you so much for reaching out and reminding me that there has been some breaking news right now. Actually, I was just looking at the news today about Luckin Coffee possibly getting delisted, or at least receiving the notification by Nasdaq. And I didn't plan on making a video about this actually, because there was no real news about this, but well, now that it seems that we have some credible sources, for instance MarketWatch reporting and quoting Nasdaq as a source, that Luckin Coffee will resume trading tomorrow, I think this is really important news, even now combined with the delisting rumors. So in this video I'm going to talk about, first of all, the news earlier today that Luckin Coffee might get delisted from Nasdaq. Second of all, the news about Luckin Coffee resuming trading tomorrow. And then third, I will talk about, well, my personal opinion and my position and how I'm gonna, what I'm basically gonna do tomorrow and with my position. So stay tuned, watch it to the very end. And also, if you enjoy this kind of information, please give it a like and support this channel. That helps really a lot. Also put in the comments what you think about what I'm telling you in this video, because I really care about your comments in this regard. Okay, let's jump straight into it. So today we got the 6K filing filed by the CFO of Luckin Coffee that Luckin Coffee receives a delisting notice from Nasdaq and plans to request a hearing. So on the delisting note, I actually, well, my personal opinion was that, well, to me that seems like a normal procedure within, you know, how Nasdaq operates in terms of they sending out the information inquiry to Luckin Coffee asking for more information, because obviously the stock is trading even though they already committed to the financial fraud and, you know, the cookbooks and everything like that. So of course this is against every rule by the book, and this of course triggers Nasdaq into requiring additional information, which up to then wasn't actually given by Luckin Coffee. And about the reason why Luckin Coffee hasn't provided this material information to Nasdaq, we can only speculate. My personal opinion is that while they are still in the process of trying to cleaning up the books, we see some first things that are happening. People resigning from the board, new board members, the CEO of Luckin Coffee got fired, and also the COO was fired. So for me, these were signs that they're making changes to the management, and these were also, you know, some changes that I actually wanted to see, despite the fact that actually one thing hasn't happened yet, which is that the chairman, Lu Chungyao, he did not leave any of his positions. And also, interestingly, the new CEO is actually also a former colleague of Lu Chungyao, the chairman, and also was involved in one of the other ventures of Lu Chungyao in Car Inc. So thereby there has been some overlaps once again in, you know, the leadership of the management and also the chairman, which possibly also got involved into the fraud. We don't know that yet, but anyways, my personal take on that, as far as I could see it up till today, was that I actually would like to see more changes to the board, particularly also about the chairman. I would be more relieved if Lu Chungyao would also stop being involved in Luckin Coffee, even though he's got no active executional function here. However, also in this short seller report, there have been lots of accusations towards him, and also he was also partly involved in, you know, when the margin call happened, because he couldn't pay some personal loans that he was taking out on margin, and the collateral had to be sold in order to you know, stop the bleeding for the banks like Goldman Sachs and so on, which was maybe partly also one of the reasons why the trading halt got into place in the first place. But anyways, it seems like all of this cleaning up process is not finished yet for Luckin Coffee. At least that's my impression. I don't know how much time they need in order to clean up all of the technicals in terms of what is wrong and what is correct about the bookkeeping, and also, what is the role of the CFO. So far, it seems he has been not involved in finessing the books and the financials. So on my personal opinion, but this now is all very ad hoc because this video wasn't planned, and I'm just doing this on the spot. My personal opinion on him is that actually I wouldn't be too worried if he stays on board. Actually, I could imagine a case in which he didn't know about what was happening on the operational level in terms of inflating revenues, possibly inflating also some of the expenses. However, of course, if we want to start from zero, from scratch, and giving Luckin Coffee a totally new chance, possibly it would also be a good sign for him to clean it up and then later on resign and let a new CFO take over. But anyways, these have been some of the processes that up till then haven't been finished, and that's, I guess, why Luckin Coffee never gave those material informations to the Nasdaq, because they couldn't. And this now gave Nasdaq the option to send this delisting note. At least that's my understanding, because in the Luckin filing we can also see that they're writing that pursuant to the Nasdaq listing rule 5101, the company didn't disclose this information, and thereby they are receiving the delisting notice here. And if we look up this specific rule about the obligations for companies listed on Nasdaq stock market, we can see that the obligations is obviously to disclose material information. So if they don't do it, they don't meet the requirements anymore to be listed, and that's a good excuse or a reason for Nasdaq at least to delist the company. So this is all making sense here. In my point of view, it was actually some positive news in this morning that we saw that Luckin Coffee responded that they want to have a meeting, a hearing with Nasdaq in order to make their case. So what they can do is actually to pitch their roadmap of how they want to become compliant again. And also this involves, for instance, reaching certain milestones in terms of providing the necessary information, and also cleaning up the books and meeting even more milestones when it comes to being compliant, having maybe new compliance officers or whatever in the company, some new positions. This is up to Luckin Coffee to come up with the concept. And this is what I'm reading out of this news, that actually Luckin Coffee is intending to work on this. So it seems to me that in the background they are working on cleaning up the numbers, at the same time now pitching this request for a hearing in order to stay listed with Nasdaq. However, as we also see in this filing, it's up to Nasdaq that the outcome might be that they actually get delisted, and the outcome could obviously also be that Nasdaq will have some confidence in this compliance plan and in this pitch, and also in possibly in a apology and new clean books, and thereby allowing Luckin Coffee to stay listed. So these are possible outcomes. It doesn't mean that Luckin Coffee as in fact has already been delisted by now. No, I think it's actually good for some of us investors here that we are actually having a deadline now, because I think now they have around 30 to 45 days upon receiving this message, which was on May 15th. So we kind of have roughly 1 month, 1.5 months now to actually await the outcomes of this hearing, which is good news, because this is the time frame. It's better than actually waiting years. Maybe we have some stocks that are holded for a very, very long time and never resumed trading. And so I guess we have some certain outcomes at some point in time here. So this was not really some news that we could kind of work with, because it doesn't affect our equity and we cannot trade our shares and our stake in the company. I wasn't actually preparing to do a video about it. However, now the whole picture is shifting with this new credible information that Luckin Coffee seems to be starting to trade tomorrow once again. And this is really a strange move somehow by Nasdaq. I don't really understand what's the reasoning behind it. Possibly they want to give people a chance to get out or buy into the company depending on the information which is at hand. which is possibly no new information at all, because we still don't have reliable books, no new finances. We don't know who was responsible for the fraud, really, except for that the CEO and the COO got kicked. However, there's still no official news from Luckin yet. And thereby, what is the news that we can now trade upon? And this means that I personally also need to make up my mind what I'm going to do tomorrow with my Luckin shares. As I've been disclosing before, I own a couple of shares, not too many though, and also not with a very high average. So for me, I'm not in a position that I lost a lot of money and I actually need to cover up my losses here. For me, it's rather actually the question if I should increase my stake in order to possibly averaging down my cost even further, or to, having a stake in this possibly new company, the Luckin Coffee 2.0, in whatever will happen in the future. And obviously, Luckin Coffee for me has been kind of a gamble and kind of a I started investing in them when a crash happened. So for me, it was kind of a V-shaped recovery bet that I was taking. And also with the long-term outcome that, I find the coffee market in China quite interesting. So also with a long-term view here, not with a very day trading mindset here. However, also being aware that Luckin Coffee obviously having those short seller accusations, being a very, very risky stock, which in the end turned out to be true. And now Luckin Coffee hasn't become any less risky, not at all actually, in fact. So what am I going to do? Well, possibly you know already my video about where I talk through Luckin Coffee valuation, where I try to clean up the balance sheet of Luckin Coffee and the business case with my business case napkin. And if you haven't seen it yet, I link it here. Please have a look. It's worth looking into it. And I made some assumptions about where I think is the real value of the business right now, and possibly what could Luckin Coffee be worth or trading at once it resumes. Now, as we don't have any certain new numbers here, this all remains speculation, and I'm not telling you to buy, hold, or sell. I don't give you any stock trading advice. I'm just telling you my personal reasoning and what I'm currently thinking. So I think the most important insights from my valuation videos was that the Luckin Coffee cash position might be actually quite good, with over $1 billion in cash. This might be still the case. However, we don't know it. Even the cash balance could be wrong because we cannot trust the earnings reports that Luckin Coffee has been publishing so far. However, we know how much capital they have been raising so far. We know roughly the burn rate and so on, which may stay the same, even though if they have inflated their sales, because they also inflated the expenses. So it might be roughly around this area. So I don't see a really immediate problem with the cash balance here, and no immediate risk for a bankruptcy right now. But all given on the little information that I have at hand here. Then I corrected their annual revenue for 2019 and brought it down to around $380 million. That's my new estimation of what I think where Luckin Coffee's revenue should be for 2019. I could be wrong on that as well. Look into my detailed video how I actually came up with those numbers. However, this will also be my basis for considering of how I will go on and trading it. And I also outlined that currently we're trading around $4 a share, and that equals a multiple of the current revenues of only 3. And this is a quite low multiple in this industry. Also, Starbucks is trading higher. And given the really high growth rate of Luckin Coffee, and also the very fast crash, we could assume that actually there has been quite a bit of undervaluation for Luckin Coffee before the trade halt got into place. However, this is also a really, really big assumption to make, considering that Luckin Coffee is such a fraudulent business right now and completely risky. which means that you can possibly lose all of your money invested. So it actually makes sense that most of those investors are actually depreciating the valuation of Luckin Coffee that much. So, but at the other hand, I do think we're really now at the lower end of the valuation right now, and at a valuation that kind of makes sense given all of the risk in place. And as I mentioned, there hasn't been any news right now. So actually all of the risk is still in place. And I would even argue the risk has even increased. Because now Luckin Coffee could even get delisted, and if it's getting delisted, then it's possibly not as accessible anymore for most traders, and it might be traded over the counter. I'm no expert on that, on what kind of effects this will have on the stock price. However, I think already the news about a possible delisting will now force many investors into trying to sell off their position in Luckin Coffee, because, you know, this is just really bad news. So I assume this will put immensely sales pressure on Luckin Coffee tomorrow. On the other hand, we also have some contradicting things happening. So for one, there has been obviously already a little bit of a cleanup happening. We've been seeing some signs about Luckin Coffee still increasing, operationally active. We've seen growing app usage. So on the operations side, there seems to be, a smooth operation as far as you can say right now. And thereby, there is still some hope, some intrinsic hope left in the valuation for Luckin here. And additionally, Luckin Coffee has been halted before most of the stock market has actually recovered. The broader stock markets has actually risen by 20 to 30% on average, and Luckin Coffee obviously being halted was not part of this exposure of investors going back in and buying shares. So maybe this is also another effect that could actually make Luckin Coffee open higher once again. So these are some effects which could either drag Luckin Coffee down, or on the other hand, it could lift the stock price very quickly. I think there are reasons on both sides on what could happen, and on the fundamental basis, on a baseline regarding the risk and the financials, nothing has changed. So it remains a complete gamble right now. So for me, I'm right now in the position that, as I mentioned before, I don't have a big stake, and if it's staying around the share price right now, or if it's going down, I'm seriously considering of picking up some more Luckin shares, because I do think there is still a possibility that Luckin Coffee may stay listed with Nasdaq, and that the company can actually at some point become clean and have a start. And as I mentioned before, I still find the market important and also interesting. And I also do think that the business model still needs some time in order to get validated. I don't think in this short amount of time that we had yet, we can see that only because we haven't seen profits that the business model could not work at all in the future. I don't think this case is legit. On the other hand, if it's going up and opening a higher, I do think I'm reluctant in buying more shares, and at some point I may even consider in selling off my Luckin Coffee shares, even though it's just a small amount. But if it would start, reaching around 15 to 20 US dollars a share, I would getting a little bit worried about the current valuation, because even though I do think that the fundamentals could be argued for making the case for this kind of a valuation, I do think the risk is currently just too high, and there should be a higher depreciation given the risk. So I think if it's going, close to 20 or so on, this will be the area where I would start possibly selling some of my shares, even though, maybe, looking for a swing trade and getting back into later on if it's falling once again, because I guess for some point in time, Luckin Coffee will now stay very volatile. So, this are just my quick thoughts, and as I outlined. This is very ad hoc. I just received the news, and this wasn't without a lot of preparation, and I possibly change my mind in the future. This is nowhere stock trading advice. I'm just giving you the news that I know right now and my personal views on it, and maybe some ideas on how you can make the evaluation for yourself. As I mentioned, be prepared to lose everything that you put in a stock. You should by now also be very aware that Luckin Coffee is a very risky stock. At the same time, and I'm making the case here also with the valuation, if Luckin Coffee survives at the business, I do think there is a potential upside for the stock in the future. So this is all up to what changes we still see from the management, how successful the pitch with Nasdaq, the hearing will be, and obviously in the future, what are the financials, what are the news on the financials and the business model there. So thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you think about it. Also smash up the thumbs, and also please give it a like and share it on social media platforms that you prefer. So thank you so much for your support, and I will give you some more updates in the future. See you next time. Bye bye.